Greetings all, Ferrari Man 601 here. Yes, it is time for some more F reaction, this time to the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix. The 1000th World Championship Formula One Grand Prix, according to Formula One's official numbers. I beg to differ with those, however, we'll leave that for another day. The 1000th race, officially, from Formula One was one of the most boring in recent memory. Of course, we all know that the Shanghai International Circuit is not exactly well known for putting on a good show, but given all the talk about the 2019 regulations allowing the cars to follow more closely through high-speed corners, well, it was a complete lie and utter disappointment as far as I'm concerned. Of course, realistically, I don't think we could ever have expected a really exciting race from China, especially because it didn't rain. We had dry conditions all throughout the weekend, and, well, that's basically what happens in modern Formula One on these really high-speed, elongated circuits. The cars string out very quickly, and the 2019 edition of this race was no different. By the end of the day, the results looked a little something like this. Winning the race with a final time of 1 hour, 32 minutes, 6 seconds, Lewis Hamilton for Mercedes-AMG Petronas scores 25 points and P1. He was followed home in second place by his teammate Valtteri Bottas, 6.5 seconds down the road, 18 points, and a 1-2 finish for Mercedes. P3 for Ferrari's Sebastian Vettel, 13.7 seconds down the road, scoring a cool 15 points. P4 for Max Verstappen, 27 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton, scoring 12 points. Charles Leclerc for Ferrari, finishing in 5th, 31 seconds behind Hamilton, and 10 points to his name. P6 for Pierre Gasly, a decent showing all around for Red Bull. Verstappen in 4th and Gasly in 6th, 9 points for P6 for Pierre Gasly by virtue of him scoring the fastest lap. 1 minute 34 seconds, .742 was Gasly's best lap, and it was the fastest lap of the race. P7, Daniel Ricciardo for Renault, 1 lap down. So Lewis Hamilton lapped up to P7 in an hour and a half. There's the pace of the Mercedes for you. P7 for Daniel Ricciardo, 6 points to the Australian. P8, Sergio Perez in one of the Racing Point Force Canadas, 4 points for the Mexican. P9, Kimi Räikkönen in the Alfa Romeo, 2 points to the Finn. And the final point scorer, P10, Alexander Albon. Decent drive for him. 11th Grosjean, 12th Stroll, 13th Magnussen, 14th Sainz, 15th Giovinazzi, 16th George Russell, 17th, and the last car classified, Robert Kubica, both Williams cars 2 laps down. Not classified are Lando Norris, Daniel Kvyat, and Nico Hülkenberg. Not entirely sure what happened with Nico Hülkenberg. We know that Renault had a double retirement last time out in Bahrain. I wonder if it is a knock-on electrical fault stemming from whatever happened to both of the Renaults in Bahrain, both of the cars stopping suddenly on track pretty much at exactly the same time. Hülkenberg's retirement, he did manage to bring the car back to the garage, but whatever the issue was, it was terminal. With the results out of the way, let's just get right into the meat of this issue. The Chinese Grand Prix was atrociously boring, and as I said, well, I don't think we could have expected really anything different from this circuit. It's just the nature of the beast. It's a long track, it has a lot of high-speed corners, and we know that high-speed grip, following each other closely, nose to tail, doesn't really exist in any sort of open-wheeled car. I don't care what it is, unless you're talking about IndyCar with basically no wing and big banked corners, you're not going to be following closely nose to tail at a circuit like this at high speed. So, be that as it may, the gaps were pretty large at the front. 6.5 seconds between the Mercedes, but 13.7 seconds between the Mercedes and the first Ferrari. Sebastian Vettel, 13.7 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton at the end. So really no chance for a fight up front, and we all know that Mercedes probably told Valtteri Bottas after the Australian Grand Prix, hey, you think you're coming back? Well, we have a contract option to terminate you, so yeah, you're not coming back, Valtteri. Give way to Lewis, and of course, indeed he did. Speaking of giving way, though, this undoubtedly is the biggest controversy of the race. Ferrari team orders. Sebastian Vettel being told to overtake Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc, likewise, told to let Sebastian through. If you are Leclerc, you're 21 years old, you've just become a Ferrari driver, of course, you're going to bleed red for Maranello. Therefore, he quite obediently obliges and lets Sebastian through. Team orders. I have nothing against team orders. If there is a clear advantage to having one car ahead of the other one, let's say that you really do have a pretty big pace disparity, or you are on radically different strategies from each other. If there is a situation where you can quantify an advantage by having one car ahead of the other, by all means, do it. If it means that you can challenge for better positions, fine, let it happen. However, that's not exactly what was going on with Ferrari and Charles Leclerc in letting Sebastian Vettel through. Leclerc was legitimately ahead of Vettel. Did he have a little bit less pace relative to his teammate? Up for speculation. I thought that both of their times up to the point where the pass happened were comparable, and I did think that Charles Leclerc was actually driving a bit more consistently, if not flat out as quickly as Sebastian Vettel. Before the overtake occurred, before Sebastian got on the radio to say, hey, I'm faster, we saw Sebastian having some lockups, coming into a few corners. He looked a little bit ragged versus Charles, although being a little bit slower, according to the stopwatch, he was more consistent. The car appeared to be working a little bit better for him, but nonetheless, Ferrari tell Charles, hey, back off and let your teammate through. That's just how team orders works. However, once Sebastian was clear of his teammate, you would think if he really was so much faster, perhaps he would start to challenge for P2 or even P1. Well, no, that's not at all what happened. Sebastian didn't really have any more long-run pace than Charles Leclerc, and it basically meant that Ferrari held station. Worse still, after all of the scrum of the pit stops was over with, Max Verstappen ended up between both of the Ferraris, so Vettel ends up finishing in third, Verstappen is fourth, and Leclerc is fifth. Did Ferrari, on aggregate, throw away the opportunity to finish third and fourth with both of their cars, rather than where they did finish third and fifth? That is a matter of speculation, I am well aware, but they end up, well, 15 points for P3 and 10 points for P5. Could they have ended up with 15 points for P3 and 12 points for P4? That is a matter of debate. However, even though we are only just past round 3 of the 2019 World Championship, if you want to be challenging for a World Championship, you must make sure that both of your cars, wherever they are in the absolute best positions that theory says they could be in, given whatever circumstances may exist on any day. Ferrari failed to do that. So, if you are a Ferrari fan and you're seeing what happened at the Chinese Grand Prix, okay, I think we can say that Mercedes were not reachable today, finishing 1-2. Clearly nobody was able to challenge them. But if you are Ferrari, if you say that you want to challenge for the Constructors' Championship, as you have been saying since, well, 2008 really, the last time you won it, if you say that you want to win a Constructors' Championship in 2019, are you going to compromise one of your driver's strategies to the point where not only does he have to yield to his teammate, but he loses another position? No, you're not going to do that. As we have seen in the past, particularly the 2007 and 2008 seasons where the World Championship was decided by 1 point, clearly you need every single point that you can get your hands on. You cannot afford to be forfeiting anything. Even at this early stage in the season, you can do the count back for the 2007 championship, for example. Kimi Räikkönen won the Australian Grand Prix that year, obviously scoring maximum points. Had he finished second in the Australian Grand Prix in 2007, Kimi Räikkönen would not have won the 2007 World Championship. Such is the difference in points that would have been the case at the end of the year, going back to the first round of the season. So every single Grand Prix, you must make sure that you secure the maximum amount of points that you reasonably can. Ferrari failed to do that simply because Sebastian Vettel got on the radio and said, I'm faster than Charles, let me by. And of course he was unable to capitalize on that. He was unable to bring the fight up to the Mercedes. As much as perhaps he wanted to, or as much as perhaps he thought he could, Vettel couldn't bring any sort of challenge to the Mercedes team. And what is the end result? Charles Leclerc ends up finishing 5th instead of 4th. Maybe they were working some sort of an issue on Leclerc's car. Remember, knock-on effects from the Bahrain Grand Prix, which of course was so cruelly stolen from Ferrari and Charles Leclerc. Perhaps they're being a little bit more conservative on that engine because I believe it's the same power unit. The entire powertrain assembly is the same on that Ferrari, the number 16 car, as it was in Bahrain. However, be that as it may, did that cost Ferrari a couple of points today? I think we could reasonably say it did. And, as history shows us, every single point matters. So, if you are Mattia Benotto and you are running that Ferrari team, what do you say to yourself? Well, because we're going to give preferential treatment to Sebastian, we ended up giving away 2 points. Is that justifiable? Maybe it is. If your goal is to keep your number 1 driver as happy as you can, then you've achieved it. If your goal is to win the Constructors' Championship, well, no. That's not going to win championships. If Mercedes is finishing 1st and 2nd, you must finish 3rd and 4th. Plain and simple. You must minimize the advantage that your rivals can pull out from you. However, that's not at all what they have done here today. Quite obviously, Mercedes finishing 1st and 2nd, Ferrari finishing 3rd and 5th. That's not good enough, boys. It simply isn't good enough. The Constructors' Championship looking the way it does now, Mercedes with 130 points on the board, Ferrari with 73. That's just not acceptable at this stage of the season. You've already allowed your only rival, really, to pull out quite a significant gap ahead of you. In the Drivers' Championship, Lewis Hamilton takes the lead from Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton already sitting on 68 points, Bottas sitting on 62, and then the third-place driver is actually now Max Verstappen with 39 points over Sebastian Vettel's 37, Charles Leclerc with 36. So what's that do? You now have Hamilton, Bottas, and Verstappen ahead of either one of your drivers. And in the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes pull out a bigger lead than they had before. Ferrari, what are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing? Is this racing, or is this a cult of personality trying to keep Sebastian Vettel happy, even though he has clearly proven to you last time out in Bahrain that he is nowhere near as consistent or good at fighting for positions and defending positions and actually gaining them as his teammate who's been in Formula 1 for all of 5 minutes, and your number 1 driver is a 4-time world champion. If you want to prioritize Sebastian Vettel, be my guest, but then don't go out and say that you want to challenge for the championship, because what you're going to manage to achieve is one or the other. You're either going to fight for the world championship, or you're going to make Sebastian Vettel happy and inflate his already pretty huge ego, even though he has nothing to show for it anymore. I don't know. Make the decision, Ferrari, but you have made quite a few people angry. Of course, the really hardcore in the tank tifosi are going to ignore this and say, well, Sebastian, he deserves it because he's a 4-time world champion and he's basically the next incarnation of Michael Schumacher. He's not. But whatever. If that's the way you want it to be, you want it to be another year of sheer Mercedes dominance, just go for it. It's round 3, you haven't managed to win a race, and you're already starting this ridiculousness with getting Sebastian ahead of Charles for no reason, especially because at the end of the day it doesn't matter because you end up costing the other car a position. Figure it out, Ferrari, but at this point, world champion Lewis Hamilton, I don't think there was really any speculation that that could change this year, and Constructors' Championship already Mercedes. Be that as it may, you're going to create animosity between your drivers, Ferrari, Sebastian being the number 1, Charles obviously being the clear number 2 at this point. The animus between those guys means they're not going to want to share as much information with each other, which means ultimately you, as the constructor, are going to be hurt because these guys are not going to be contributing to develop the car. So there you go. You want to be outpaced by Red Bull again? Go for it. Absolutely go for it. Keep going with those team orders. Fine. No problem. Be my guest. Mercedes, 2019 WCC, pretty much secured already after round 3. Fun times ahead. Hopefully IndyCar is more interesting this year. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed all of this. Ferrari Man 601 saying thank you very much for listening, and of course, we will see you soon.